Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. I want to talk today about some new polling trends we're seeing come out that I think prove my point I've been making over the past month that the rise in the polls for the Liberals, in some cases actually eclipsing the Conservatives in support, was all a response bias. It was Liberals being more likely to pick up the phone and take a poll than they usually would be. So, although the Liberals had a small bump in support, maybe they went from 21% to 28%, they were never at 35%. It's just that Liberals became 90% likely to take a poll, while the rest of Canadians supporting other parties were maybe only like 60% likely to take a poll. So, I want to take you guys through what the current polls are showing because now the Conservatives, with many of the pollsters, are back to wide leads. Some just 7%, but others going up to 13%. It looks like we are at the high water mark for Mark Carney as Liberal leader. I know he's not Liberal leader yet, but everyone is assuming he is and basically baking that into their decisions when it comes to who they're voting for. Anyways, before I get into this, guys, I just want to remind you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by mid-December, and leave a comment on where you think this whole election is going to land, whether it's going to be later in the year, and who you think is going to win, whether majority or minority. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber. This is my fourth time making this video because of how messed up Streamyards has been every time I've recorded it. Anyways, let's get into our first poll, and this should be the tightest one. Oh, actually, it's not this one. It is actually this one. Pollara now has a 10-point lead for the Conservative Party of Canada, 42% for Pure Poly as Conservatives to 32 for the Liberals. That is a generic Liberal Party, but again, most people who are politically in tune and are taking polls realize it's pretty much going to be Mark Carney, and there's a sliver of a chance that Chrystia Freeland may be leading the Liberals. This Pollara poll is, in fact, probably still overpolling how well the Liberals are going to do in the next election. I do not think the Liberals are currently a 32% party nationally, and I don't think as badly run as the NDP is under Jagmeet Singh. He is an abysmal politician, terrible. They're still not, in my mind, an 11% party. I think we're going to see the NDP land somewhere around 13 to 15 points. Everyone is currently just very down on the NDP because the Liberals are the cool, shiny new toy on the left again. Once Mark Carney is the leader and really gets the shine ripped off him, you're going to see some progressives migrate back over to the NDP and park their vote with Jagmeet Singh once again. But let's move on to the next poll. That Pollara poll, again, a 10-point spread for the Conservatives. That's very good considering Pollara before was showing a very tight race within 1 or 2 points. Now we have Innovation. Now, Innovation's last poll did have the Conservatives leading by 9 points, and this current one is only showing them leading by 7. But again, I think this is a high watermark, and there's already a lot of other, I think, evidence to prove that the Conservatives are both doing better and the Liberals are probably doing worse. The Bloc Québécois being only at 6% doesn't feel realistic to me. Yves Francois Blanchette and the Bloc Québécois haven't really done anything to embarrass themselves or alienate any of their voters. And in fact, separatist sentiments are rising in Quebec, nowhere near where they were in the 90s. But even them just improving a little bit should at least maintain where the Bloc was in 2021, if not expand their support. I think we're going to see the Bloc Québécois at 7 to 9 points, not at 6. That would be them probably losing a dozen seats. I don't think that's currently in the cards. And I also don't think the CPC would ever be at 38%. I think it has become a solidly 41% and above party right now. But still, compared to what we had been seeing for the last 3 weeks from most pollsters, and this is still what I consider a high watermark for the Liberals in innovation research, this is a big improvement. But now let us get to the real big news, and that is Léger, who, mind you, had the Liberals and Conservatives within 3 points, the Conservatives only leading by 3 points in their last poll about a week ago. And now they have the Conservatives leading by 13 points, 43 to 30, and the NDP at 13 and the Bloc at 6. Reminder, I think the Bloc's probably going to be more like 7, 8, or even 9, and that is really going to eat mostly into the Liberals polling in Quebec because the Conservatives don't really have anything you can take from them in the Quebec. There's a couple seats the Conservatives can win, but for the most part, where the Conservatives currently have seats, they're very Anglo conservative friendly, very capitalist areas where all the areas that the Bloc have, either it's a rural riding that the Bloc's never going to lose, or it's Montreal and Quebec City, where the Bloc Québécois has the ability to start eating into the Liberals' sort of red island of Montreal. The Liberals may be technically popular in Quebec, but really are they? They are popular in, somewhere like Gatineau. They're popular in Montreal. They're popular in Quebec City. Even Quebec City's on a little bit of a knife's edge. And so with the polls moving a little bit away from them, or even if the Liberals gained a lot in the polls, they're really just holding on to Montreal harder than they usually would have. But if they slip and the Bloc Québécois starts getting 8 or 9% nationally, which would translate into high 30s, that's when they start eating around the suburban Montreal areas and the Liberals start losing seats in an area that they cannot afford to lose seats. That is the problem. And I want to get into the specific data behind this poll. Hopefully the data actually displays properly every time I make this video. Afterwards, I look at the footage, and even though I saw it correctly the first time, whenever I show something on screen, for some reason, it's just a blank screen. This should be displaying properly. If it's not, forgive me. But here's the top line numbers, as you've already seen, 43 for the Conservatives, 30 for the Liberals. As you can see, since the last poll, the Conservatives have gained 5, the Liberals have lost 5, NDP have lost 1, the Bloc have lost 1, and then the Green Party and the PPC are staying where they're at. Here is where I'm basically talking about why it's impossible right now for the Liberals to win. Right now, Pierre Poilievre, and that's this top number here, and this bottom number is the Liberals. This is Atlantic Canada that we're looking at right now. In Atlantic Canada, the Conservatives are at 33 and the Liberals are at 37, with Justin Trudeau as the generic leader in this poll. We'll get to how Mark Carney polls as the leader a bit later and why I don't think that's going to hold up over time. But the Liberals are currently leading in Atlantic Canada by 4 points. And usually that would be cool. That'd be pretty neat for the Liberals to be leading because they've gotten so used to trailing hard, even in Atlantic Canada. The problem is, we'll go back to 2015. The Liberals did a clean sweep of Atlantic Canada, literally won every seat. Since then, the Conservatives have grabbed a seat here or there. I think the NDP might have gotten 1. The Greens in one of the elections got 1. Now it's back to being Liberal. For the most part, though, that's with the Liberals getting mid-40s to almost high 40s in their support. 37 to 33 is death. They cannot be in a knife fight with the Conservatives in somewhere like the Maritimes. They need to be far ahead in order to be winning. Now let's move over to Ontario. In Ontario, the Conservatives are at 44%, Liberals are at 33. This is the number where basically the Liberals lose every single swing riding. They lose every single swing riding, and all they start to hold on to is maybe they get to keep Kingston and the Islands, maybe they keep a London seat, maybe they keep a couple Mississaugas and a Brampton, but it's basically just downtown core Toronto that they're holding on to, and maybe even they lose some seats then with an 11-point spread, depending on the demographics. Especially Jewish-heavy neighborhoods are really not happy with the Liberals on just how tolerant they have been of terrorism and basically anti-Semitism in the streets. So, yeah, that's shaky. I don't think Yara Sachs wins. 11-point spread, that's really bad. But let me now take you in the nightmare fuel numbers for the Liberals. Again, they've been sometimes more than 13 points. We saw back like 4 months ago, they were trailing by 20 points, 23 points. The problem is that was usually the Conservatives just running the score up even harder than they usually do in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So sometimes that throws it off. But the 13-point spread here is in all of the worst places for the Liberals. Because remember, the swing provinces in this country are the Atlantic provinces, Ontario, and then you have BC. Look at BC. In BC, Conservatives are at 49%, Liberals at 32%, and the NDP are at 15%, which should make you not wonder why Jagmeet Singh doesn't want an election. That guy's going to lose a seat in Burnaby, and I think there's a good chance he tries to swap into a different riding that he has a better chance in. His riding, in fact, got cut in half after the 2021 election, so he has to choose where he wants to run. Either, I believe, Burnaby North Seymour, or he has to run in Burnaby Center. Burnaby Center is the better chance, but it's still a 50-50 shot. And if they're polling at only 15% in BC, he's dead. There's just no, Jagmeet Singh is done. He's got to find a new riding or he's going to lose. But 32 for the Liberals, it's not a 17% trail is insane. And here's the other number that's crazy. So BC, that would basically be the Liberals holding on to some downtown Vancouver ridings, maybe a Surrey riding or two, maybe a riding in Victoria. That's it. They're done. Their hubs of support are gone. That's the problem. A few of them are holding up. Montreal's holding up. Toronto's holding up. Some areas of the urban centers around Atlantic Canada will hold up. BC is a complete write-off at this point. For the Liberals, they can't win. Men, this is the real reason the Liberals are losing. Yes, women are tighter, and technically the Liberals could take a big lead with women at some point. But men are being won by the Conservatives 49%, almost a majority. And I believe this is including undecided, so they probably are winning a majority. And only 30% is going towards the NDP. Sorry, the Liberals. There's only 8% going to the NDP, my goodness. 30% going to the Liberals. And I'm going to show you in a second. It doesn't get better with Mark Carney at all. Again, if those stats aren't displaying properly, my goodness, please help me, Streamyards, to stop screwing up the data. But 30% to 49% is the death of the Liberals. And especially, it's men under 45 who will not vote Liberal. There's no ad campaign. There's no policy they could announce. There's nothing. There's no marketing scheme that they can use to win men back, because men feel disrespected by the NDP and the Liberals. If you combine the Liberals and the NDP together with men, they are still trailing by 11 points. That's ridiculous. It's because, again, the Liberals have become a metropolitan, socially progressive, we'll create a giant social safety net under you to protect you because daddy government needs to be there for you. And that has very much turned off younger men who are working in the trades, especially, who are part of private sector unions in construction and development and all that stuff and maintenance. Those guys will not vote for the Liberals. And even the innovation research polls have proven business liberals will not vote for the Liberals, especially business liberal men. Men who work in finance, who work in, are involved in tech startups and whatnot, many of them will not vote Liberal. They might be technically progressives. They may be culturally more liberal. They may like the social programs of Canada, but the economy sucks so bad they can't vote for you. That is where the Liberals are falling apart. They can win back women. They can kind of carve around the sides of some of these regions. But the problem is, it's the suburban areas. It's suburban men who will not be showing up for the Liberals at all. The demographics, the thing is that Conservatives can win women. Conservatives can eat in to the amount of women that the Liberals are winning easier than the Liberals can eat into the men that the Conservatives are winning. That is the problem. The Liberals are behind, and they seek to lose more than the Liberals can. Sorry, the Conservatives have a less of a chance of losing their support than the Liberals do, and the Liberals are already trailing. Here is Mark Carney. When you poll Mark Carney, things barely get any better. So assuming he's the leader, the Liberals then go up to 33%, the Bloc stays at 6%, the Conservatives fall a couple points to 41%, and the NDP fall another point to 12%. I don't even think this is accurate. I think there are a lot of people who don't actually know much about Mark Carney. He is a sucking void that is the color beige. He is a boring, incompetent. He has no charisma. He is a gaffe machine. He is a braggart. And I think a lot of people are going to grow to hate him. But even in this poll, it shows that a lot of people are kind of figuring out there's not that much different with Mark Carney in charge. And so in previous polls, when you've said Mark Carney's the leader, the Liberals would jump up 8 to 12 points. It was crazy that if you said it was Mark Carney, then suddenly they're doing really well. And that didn't make sense because his name recognition isn't actually that high. I think it's because nobody knows who he is. When you say, what about Mark Carney's leader? A bunch of people say, I don't know who that is. I'm just going to assume it's someone competent. And then they are more willing to vote Liberal, especially those who maybe voted Liberal in 2021. If you say Mark Carney, I don't know who that is. I'm just going to assume it's 10 times better than Trudeau, so maybe I will vote Liberal. As Mark Carney's propensity to lie has been coming out, as as many times as his French is displayed to be terrible. That's why I cannot see the bloc doing bad. Mark Carney's French is awful. Like in compared to other very fluent leaders, his French is kind of clunky, and a lot of people in French debates nationally are going to find it grating. But so moving on though, what we have is that the Liberals, even with Mark Carney, are not doing any better where it matters. Atlantic Canada, they actually only do 1% better, and actually the Conservatives start crawling up on them. In Ontario, he does much better, still trailing by 6 points. Yeah, it's fair enough. He's doing better. But in BC, he is still 17 points behind. It does not improve in BC. So really, by putting Mark Carney in, you are betting that somehow Quebecers are somehow going to start liking him. So all of a sudden, this one does show he gets a pop over Trudeau. But again, most people don't know his French sucks and that he's from Edmonton. Especially men. Look, with men, Liberals are doing 3% better. Conservatives are doing 3% worse. But that is still a 13% lead with men. And actually, with women, the Conservatives start doing better if Mark Carney is in. Because there's a lot of women who like Justin Trudeau, and that was part of Justin Trudeau's progressive orange liberal base. A lot of women liked how progressive Trudeau was, and as soon as you swap out Trudeau with someone less overtly progressive, even though Mark Carney is more of a radical on so many issues, a lot of women go away because they see this as like a betrayal. Certain very progressive women see this as a betrayal, and I think they actually might go NDP. Again, that hasn't shaken out yet because I think NDP support is so depressed because they just don't care about this election. We have seen polls where literally more than half of NDP supporters think Jagmeet Singh's a complete putz and they don't want to show up. That will change as the election gets closer. A lot of people tend to just go back with their default party, and that's why I think it's pretty ridiculous to think the NDP is only going to clock in at 11%. They're going to do better than that. And I think Mark Carney ends up trying to upgrade the Liberals. Like, again, I'm a conservative. I want to see these guys lose. I'm just trying to analyze this from an objective perspective of really trying to dig into what motivates voters. This is what I was saying before they even got rid of Trudeau. I don't think you gain support by getting rid of Trudeau because you trade Trudeau's socially progressive voters who are really going to show up hard because they like how socially progressive Trudeau is. When you get rid of him and you swap in Mark Carney, yeah, you get some of the nervous middle class voters who usually vote Liberal, maybe back willing to vote Liberal again because Mark Carney seems like a competent economic manager. He's not. He's been the economic advisor for 4 years. He sucked. But some of those people come back. But, I guess a good way of putting it, if you know who she is, the Dina Sharif, the crazy activist left Liberals, will stop showing up if Trudeau is no longer the prime ministerial candidate, which means this entire Liberal leadership race has been a practice in futility. The best it's done for the Liberals is maybe help them raise more money, but who cares? You're going to have to basically spend a bunch of money just to rebrand the party for Mark Carney. And again, you don't know if the guy's gaffes are going to catch up to him so badly that you'll wish you had Justin Trudeau, because you're going to lose anyways, at least lose with Justin Trudeau. And at least then he can't threaten to come back to take over your party again, because he can claim that, well, I never lost, so why not run me again in 8 years? Sounds a bit preposterous, but what else is Justin Trudeau going to do? He'll take one term off to go surfing or whatever, and then I think he actually might try and come back. And so with Carney, I think it's almost too obvious of a move. People don't like the economy. People lost confidence in the government on healthcare and on crime. So let's have a button-down accountant be the leader of the party to bring people back, because he looks like a calculator, so maybe he knows how to do the public finances. He doesn't. He's terrible, and I think people are going to realize when all of his other semiconductor comments that, America actually relies on Canada for most of its semiconductors, and we import 0.8% of their semiconductors to them, a lot of that's going to start coming out. The fact that he has been a radical in policy. He backs central bank digital currency. He backs, carbon tax tariffs. He backs, he's backed UBI in the past. He was the guy who was the architect behind the GST HST freeze. He can't run away from that forever. He can keep trying to steal credit for other things, but even that has caused him scandals where Harper has to come out and say, no, you're not going to stand on the grave of Jim Flaherty and pretend you did all the stuff that he in fact did. So yeah, I think Poilievre is going to basically clean this guy's clock. the polling shows that the momentary sugar high the Liberals had upon thinking maybe we could get a super good leader by getting rid of Trudeau is mostly subsiding, and people are realizing that they are basically getting a beige colored work portfolio as their new leader. He is just not anybody that anyone is going to, fight hard for at the doors. And that's the problem. You needed charisma, and they end up rolling the dice for somebody to give them that like academic feel. And they did that with Michael Ignatieff, and they fell on their faces hard. And I think we're about to see a repeat of that. Anyways, so that's it for me today, guys. Hopefully the video came out well this time. My goodness, I've done this so many times, and I'm being driven up the wall. Hopefully it worked out, and you guys actually saw the data I wanted to screen share. I tried to find another way of showing the other data in the beginning of the video through screenshots I uploaded. Hopefully it worked. I wanted to tear my hair out trying to make this video. Literally, one of the versions of it was like 25 minutes. Then the next one was 17. Then the next one was 19. All three of those were corrupted, and this is my 4th time shooting this. And there have been retakes even in these versions. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.